I appreciate everyone coming today. We've got a packed room. We've got even some more coming in, which is really, really just awesome. When we had an idea to put this event together, I didn't realize we were actually going to get 14 universities represented in the room, which I think is really, really neat. And so, we have universities from here in Kentucky, from Indiana, from Illinois, from Ohio, from Tennessee. It's really, really neat to have this collection of people. And even more important for the topic that we're going to cover today, we have representatives from technology transfer offices, from philanthropy units, from alumni services, from a number of those institutions. We did not put kind of on name tags or anything where people are from, but I encourage you just to kind of reach out and do some networking today, to talk to people across the table from you, and you'll meet some of your counterparts and people from those other offices and other of the institutions. So the topic we're going to cover today is one that hasn't been covered a whole lot, and we like to call we like to sort of just namesake the word here, engage, because that's really what we're talking about today, is a way to engage across lines between those three units that you would find in most universities and the professionals, and raise up some awareness of opportunities, of trends, of ideas, and really just have an open discussion. For a half day here, we want to have an open discussion about how can we work together, and what's happening as best practices are being formed to do some of that across a number of our universities. We do have a few minutes later in the program here where we will actually have an open mic session, and I'm going to walk around with an open mic for anyone to raise up experiences, stories, case studies, ideas, opportunities, anything you'd like to say about an experience where alumni engagement was important to what you were doing, and there was some commercialization interest or aspect or ramification with all that. So before we get to an awesome speaker that I'm excited to present to you guys, I'm just going to go through a little bit to just talk through kind of why we're here today. And so just to introduce myself, I'm Ian McClure. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Technology and Commercialization here at UK. And our office manages all of the research results, the intellectual property, spin-out startup companies, licensing, and all commercialization efforts related thereto here for UK. But we couldn't do any of that really alone in any kind of a silo or in a vacuum. It's tough to do that without an ecosystem and community. And what we're going to talk about today is what we believe to be a very important part of that community and that effort and that ecosystem, which is our alumni network. This is what our alumni network looks a little bit like. We've got 153,000 alumni with bachelor's degrees, almost 50,000 with graduate degrees. An important point that 90% of our PhD graduates actually leave the state. Something that we're going to focus in on, I think, through some additional discussion today, is what we can do about a boomerang effect as we bring talent that might go to more entrepreneurial environments or seek out those experiences in their career and have an opportunity potentially to come back and bring that talent to us. But let me dig into that a little bit more. Here's just another snapshot of what that alumni base looks like. And the point to grab here is that 37% of our alumni are actually out of the state. We're a large state institution here. And as you might expect, a majority of our alumni stay here, but a good 100,000 exist outside the state, in some of your states. Important. And as you also might suspect, a good number of our graduates reside in our two largest cities, Louisville and Lexington. We're up in Covington, close to Cincinnati, across the river. But what you might not also suspect is, as I put these red boxes around where some of our alumni are, you might notice that these are what I would consider sort of entrepreneurial environments, right? We've got Boston, New York, Orange County, San Francisco, San Diego, Seattle. And let me talk to you a little bit about why we think this is important. And this is going to be probably no different for most universities and where your alumni base resides. Here's why some of this is important to us. This is a snapshot of something that I've presented a few times about the innovation network that we are in, and all the universities here are part of this network here, because this is really kind of a regional discussion sponsored by OVALS, which is the Ohio Valley Affiliates for Life Sciences, a group of universities here in the Ohio Valley region. We get together, our tech transfer offices, to do some best practice talking. So this region, this innovation region, actually is critical to that group of schools and all the schools here. If you measure these four statistics, so university research expenditures, patents, I think that's patents filed, startups launched, and inventions that come out of that research funding, we actually, if you drew a 250-mile radius around us here, we actually ranked 5th after New York, Boston, Philadelphia, and San Francisco. That's pretty neat. So we know we're in an innovation region. But there's one thing that's missing from our region, and at least as a consolidated space or a dense space, and that is a talent-rich region. And that's what you do find in some of those other places. And not just talent, but you also find a capital gap in some of that, right? So here's a snapshot from Refinery Ventures and PitchBook as they look at just where angel and VC capital resides. And some of this is not going to be new to a lot of this, but it's interesting as you overlay where good portions of our alumni, as I go back to that slide where you saw some of our alumni that are out of the state. That's a good 10,000 plus that reside in exactly where these bubbles are, right? And so that's a pretty good number. And so we've done some things to look at how can we bring, and we don't view that just as sort of course, not all 10,000 of those are participating, right, in this angel and VC capital, these bubbles here. But certainly there are environments that I would consider things like risk tolerant or entrepreneurial and have experiences that would be really important to our commercialization process by way of talent, mentorship, coaching, and other types of engagement. So here's one example of something you're going to hear a little bit more about. A number of universities in this room have helped participate in the building of something that we call Executives on Roster. It's a platform we built where we try to match talent from some of our alumni networks that actually reside in those places or here in our communities to some of our university spin-out startups. A really neat engagement. Something else you're going to hear a little more about later today is an event that we've held here at UK where we have actually intentionally brought some of our entrepreneurial alumni back to us to have an event right here on campus, and we presented some of our startups and technologies to them. We had them present to our faculty, entrepreneurs, and students. A really neat event. And here's why those types of things we believe are important in the discussion we're going to have today. Is important to all of us. So there's a trend that you might find interesting, not just these gifts or the amounts, but actually the years in which they were given. This is a neat trend in interest in philanthropic gifts that go to innovation and entrepreneurship centers, all of which kind of combine the commercialization culture and efforts. Big gifts here, right? The Heinz Institute, Magnuson, the Knight Campus, and the Polsky Center in Chicago are all examples of these types of gifts. Here's some more examples. The Schwartz Center, Carnegie Mellon, the Tata Innovation Center, again, big gifts, also very, very recent gifts. But it's not just about gifts. And one thing that I want to highlight as I introduce our speakers and he's going to talk about is another type of engagement from a number of these alumni that are actually interested in this type of effort. So UK is not unique in the fact that there's a number of institutions that are sort of ramping up and newly resourcing their commercialization activities. We've seen huge momentum here from UK just in the past couple of years where we've really significantly increased our commercialization activity from inventions, patents filed, licenses executed, startups spun out, which is all fantastic. But there's really one thing that's always missing to get a lot of our technologies at early stages to a much more advanced stage where they can actually meet market demands and products and de-risking, and oftentimes that fall on capital and access to that capital. So I'm going to introduce, just on that note, as a segue, our keynote speaker, Fletcher McCusker. And I'm really, really excited to have Fletcher here with us today so Fletcher can tell his story to us. So let me introduce Fletcher a bit by giving you some of his background. Fletcher is the founder of UA Venture Capital. He's also the CEO at Sinfonia and also the man behind the startup to IPO of Tucson-based Providence Services Corporation. Fletcher is a 1974 U of A graduate, University of Arizona graduate, and started Providence in 1997. With a $50,000 investment, he grew the company to $55 million in revenue and went public in 2003. Providence then grew to a $1 billion business and is by far the most successful public company ever launched in Tucson. Fletcher left Providence in 2013 to assist Tech Launch, which is the University of Arizona Commercialization Unit, in its commercialization efforts by becoming the business driver for University of Arizona spin out Sinfonia. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Close. Okay, I'll let you correct me. Sinfonia pioneered medication therapy management designed to assure physician-written prescriptions are safe, don't conflict with other medications, and are age-appropriate and necessary. The company allows its clients to comply with Medicare requirements and saves them money by preventing unnecessary or ineffective prescriptions. Patient health is improved by direct pharmacist interaction and medication review. As chairman of the Rio Nuevo district, the downtown Tucson area that's being revitalized, Fletcher is credited with spearheading much of the development downtown in Tucson since moving downtown in 2010. I mentioned Fletcher is a U of A alumnus. He's also a U of A alumnus of the year. He holds an honorary doctorate awarded in 2014. He's endowed the public programs chair. He's scholarshiped a member of the tennis team, and he sits on several of U of Arizona advisory boards. Please join me in welcoming Fletcher.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Indeed, morning. It's 5:30 my time. I saw Ian at dinner last night and said, will you just be sure to check me and make sure I show up with pants? Because I'm usually up at this time, but I'm not in a suit. So it's kind of humbling to be here in the Gatton building in the Terry Woodward Hall to talk about alumni engagement. Clearly that's not an issue for the University of Kentucky, nor is it for the University of Arizona. We have a lot of very high net worth individuals who put their names on buildings. And cut to the end of my story, we have found that all of those people are likely investors in your commercialization efforts. And I'll walk through kind of how we've gotten from 0 to 60 at the U of A in about 2 years. Catchy title, you know, you can all do this, except for Ohio State. They're going to be the fund. Right? The rest of you, just put your name in front of venture capital and go launch a venture capital fund. That part of it's pretty easy. The raising money part of it's not so easy, because it's new, it's novel. You know, big institutions won't look at your venture capital business until you have some experience, but moreover, probably until you've had an exit or two. Two of the people that have joined me today, Lawton Logan, if you'll raise your hand, Greg Cohn standing in the back of the room. One of the smartest things that we ever did is we've hired professional fundraisers. They run an organization based in Atlanta called Maven Capital Advisors that are raising our second fund, which is a $100 million fund. We've outsourced that placement entirely to Maven. Coincidentally, I won't make the rest of your day because we're calling on your big donors immediately after my presentation. This is a strategic initiative statement from the president of our university. It's important that you know that a few years ago, if you were a University of Arizona faculty, you did not benefit from your IP. It was in fact illegal. We're a land-grant university, not unlike many of yours. However, as an employee of our university, your intellectual property belonged to the state. So we had kind of serious brain drain from our innovative inventor community that would take their patent or their idea or their company and go to Caltech or Colorado or Michigan or Stanford, someplace where they could personally benefit from their invention. We were privileged to be involved in changing that just a few years ago. And you heard Ian mention Tech Launch Arizona. This is all new for us literally within the last 4 years. We got the law changed. We brought in David Allen from the University of Colorado, who ran the tech transfer division in Colorado. The Colorado area, you probably know, is one of the most prolific spin-outers in the country. There are 65 University of Colorado spin-outs in Denver alone. So we wanted to attract someone that could be tenacious and help us stand up a tech transfer division. David has since retired, and our tech launch now is run by Doug Hotstad, who came to us from Michigan's tech transfer office. And this is authored by, come on in, this is authored by President Bobby Robbins. The reason I'm probably not retired, and the reason that Arizona's become so tenacious at tech transfer and commercialization, is due specifically to President Bobby Robert Robbins. Bobby came from Stanford. He's an inventor. He owns 30 or 35 patents in his own rights. He was a cardiac surgeon. He ran the Texas Medical Center in Houston. We pleaded with our regions to change our president's job description. The University of Arizona has enjoyed 6 presidents in the last 12 years. All of them have been academic. So we were pretty well tired of that and asked the regions to drop the requirement from our president that in order to be the president of the University of Arizona, you had to have been a provost. So we attracted only academic leaders who had experience at another school. They dropped that requirement. Bobby Robbins, who's an MD, who had never been a university academic leader, applied for and was given our presidency just a year and a half ago. And he's truly a game changer. This is his initiative to bring our university to the forefront in terms of commercialization. I won't read it, you can read it for yourself. We suffer from what I call the research cliff. You all enjoy this if you're a research institution. University of Arizona is an AAU university. We're in the top 20 in terms of research dollars. We're in the top 5 in terms of many of our applications. And you know how the process works. Your faculty apply for a grant, they get some grant money, they fool around with that project for a little while, they're obligated to publish that. They don't achieve tenure unless they do publish and continue to research. That grant money runs out. What happens to that project? It's stopped. It's shelved. You can't go anywhere. They've got to continue research. They apply for a different grant. They tweak their innovation. They move on. We call it the research cliff. What we've gone in to do is try to identify those things that are the most interesting, sexy, topical, and say, okay, we're going to help you advance this research, but we're going to invest in your project. We're not just going to give you a grant. Last year, the University of Arizona enjoyed $700 million of research dollars for the year just ending. And our system, we have the advantage over a lot of you. Because this is new, we have to start from scratch. And we're students of all of you. We've looked at the programs that do this well. We looked at those of you that struggle, frankly, with commercialization. We've made a number of ideas that are unique to our university. Under our system, if you're a faculty member now at the University of Arizona and you have a discovery, it's probably no different than how any of you operate. You're obliged to disclose that. If you go to our Tech Launch Arizona website, you'll find a one-page disclosure form. You fill it out, you date it, that's the moment in which you've identified that discovery, and it goes to the patent librarian at our tech transfer office. Under our system, if the University of Arizona likes your discovery, discovers there's no prior art, and it appears to be patentable, the University of Arizona will file for that patent. We do that entirely with outsourced legal. We don't use any of our own university legal. We use about 75 patent lawyer firms across the country. The University of Arizona pays for that patent. Then they turn back and license that product back to the inventor. In our system, the University of Arizona keeps 5% ownership of the company that's created around that patent IP. The inventor, and I would venture to guess none of you enjoy this, the inventor owns 95% of their invention. Like you, we have to clear COI, conflict of interest. So if you're involved in our faculty and you have a company that you're starting up, your dean, the U of A leadership clear you for that. That usually means you have to reduce the amount of time that you spend in your private sector project. If you're involved in a lab, you might have to rent the lab space, etc. But the COI process has become really pretty aggressive in terms of encouraging our faculty to participate in innovation. We are blessed is that when those patents are filed, and this year the university filed 265 patent applications, we get to see them immediately as the dedicated venture capital side of the University of Arizona. In a year and a half, we've gone from 0 tech transfer to the top 10 now in the United States. A large part of that is because of our president, but a large part of that is the robustness of our innovation community, the faculty inventors who are now encouraged to invent. We believe we'll file something in the neighborhood of 400 to 500 patents in the new fiscal year. Last year we issued 100 licensing agreements. Our dedicated venture capital firm invested in only 11 of those companies. And I'm going to go through those with you so you can see how we kind of think about inventions and how they appeal to possible strategic partners. At the end of the day, we're trying to create an exit. Uniquely, we outsource all of our patent legal. We're dedicated, our venture capital firm does nothing but U of A, science and technology. One of the things that's unique about our school, I'm not sure any of you do this, you can achieve tenure at the University of Arizona and never publish a paper. If you're involved in the startup community, you're engaged in startup companies, you're an inventor, innovator, it puts you on a tenure track. In the year and a half that we've enjoyed being a fund, our first fund was $20 million. We deployed all of that. We raised half of that quickly. All of that, by the way, from alumni and boosters. And that enabled us to deploy that capital quickly to some very interesting companies. But moreover, it was the genesis of our second fund, which is now only 3 months old, a $100 million fund. But you can kind of see how we think about looking at our faculty innovation and things that might indeed change the world. Regulonics is the first non-opiate, non-addictive painkiller compound invented in the world, invented at a University of Arizona lab. We are marketing that drug. We will sell that drug preclinical this summer. We invested $2 million in this company for a 40% interest. We expect to sell that drug this summer for up to $600 million. Codlicita is the smallest semiconductor chip ever manufactured, also manufactured by U of A engineering faculty. We are demoing that product to Toshiba as we speak. Freefall, we have some ham radio operators in our engineering department that instinctively thought they might be able to miniaturize antenna systems. So they've developed a 5G antenna that's about this tall. And it spins the radio transmission as it's broadcast. And from the top of the Gatton building, it'll broadcast 5G to the horizon. We are demoing that project to the International Cellular Conference in October. Post-Bid Ship is a fun logistics company, came out of our School of Business. It's a disruptive software program, not unlike Uber, but it's designed for semi-truck haulers. So you register your semi and your driver, and if a big shipping company needs a shipment, they post the shipment and you respond to it as a truck driver. And it's kind of first come, first served, not unlike an Uber application. Quick is a really fun company, came out of the same College of Business. They place temporary staff at restaurants, hotels, and bars. They launched this in Tucson and Phoenix. They have 300 restaurants that have signed up, 5,000 staff. If they have someone that doesn't show up for a shift or they need to fill a job quickly, they post a job, you respond with your smartphone, and they're filling shifts now with temporary workers in as little as 12 minutes. We believe that company is going to be bought probably this summer. One of the most fun things we've done is a company we call EarDog, stands for Enhanced Augmented Reality 3D Glassware. If you've ever seen the 3D glasses that the gamers use or people use in virtual reality, they kind of look like ski goggles. Our optical scientists have invented something that looks more like Ray-Bans. We're demoing that product this summer. In our second fund, I think all of you have similar ideas. The point here is that we've been able to prioritize our innovation and really look at things that we believe are indeed world-changing. Part of the strategy, remember, if you saw the slide from our president, is to change the reputation of our university. This isn't so much about enhancing the university's reputation as a change agent, particularly in world technology, as it is about the economics. One, that will attract faculty. We believe with our generosity in IP ownership, we've already seen inbound faculty from Harvard, from Caltech, from University of California, San Diego, from MIT. That will attract students and ultimately increase our rankings and conditional on additional commercial transfer. Unbelievably, and I think this may be the most disruptive thing we're going to invest in, our optical science department, University of Arizona Optics, is #1 in the world. They've invented a number of things that we're interested in. One of them is a handheld phoropter. The phoropter, if you wear eyeglasses, is the thing when you go to the eye doctor, the big machine that the doctor switches lenses on you and says, is that better, is that worse, is that better, is that worse? So you have to be involved in that. And you typically screw up when you get home. You thought you were in focus at the office, and now you can't see so good. They've invented a laser technology that's handheld. You peep through a little peephole. What you see with your naked eye is the eye chart. What you don't see is lasers measuring the refraction of your eye as you focus. In 10 seconds, it will email you your eyeglass prescription. We just invested $2 million in that company. We expect that company could also be a quick exit this summer. Out of the optics department, we've invested in the most powerful UAV light invented. It's 5 times as powerful as any other UAV scanner. If you're in the semiconductor chip business, you use UAV light to scan for imperfections in your chips. We're demoing that project to Intel. NP Photonics, I don't know how or why, but we have faculties who intuitively thought they could replicate the heat signature of a jet engine in a small laser. They've been able to do that now. You dangle that laser behind a drone and fire a heat-seeking missile at the drone. The laser will distract the missile to the laser. They have invented a heat-seeking missile countermeasure that we've demoed to the Navy. We've invested, our average investment so far is about $2 million. And for that, typically we'll get a minority interest in the company. If you suffer from sleep apnea, I do, a lot of you do. We have a U of A physician, chemist, civil engineer who may have invented the cure to sleep apnea. It's a small diode that gets inserted in the base of your neck at the end of the nerve to your tongue, and it's an audio receptor. So when you snore, it hears that, relaxes the tongue nerve. Our partner in this project, will surprise you, is ResMed, the largest maker of CPAP in the world. Medicarbone, what we call Carbone, is kind of a fun project invented by U of A veterinary doctor, civil engineer. We're meeting immediately after my presentation today with University of Kentucky vet school people. They have been able to liquefy carbon, inject it into your body, and form an intracorpus, or inside your body, carbon cast that is permanent. It requires FDA approval to be inserted in humans. It does not require FDA approval to be inserted in horses. This could prevent a racehorse from being destroyed when they break a leg. So we have a lot of interest in that from the veterinary side of that project. Again, we've got a minority interest in that company. The inventor owns 55% of that company. The university owns 5%. We own the balance, and we're using that money to further their research. I expect we may very well partner with the University of Kentucky to do the research in that product. Why are you here today, and what have we discovered about how to encourage this among our alumni? And I must tell you, we've been very pleasantly surprised. I think that number is now 33 individual investors in our second fund. We had about 20 investors in our first fund, with the exception of 1 or 2 people. They are all very wealthy, affiliated, long-term associate donors of the University of Arizona. They are now investors in addition to being donors. What's more important to us about that, from our perspective, is we have 2 really great partners that have enabled us to have this kind of energy. One of them is our foundation. Our foundation is a partner in everything that we do. The 5% equity interest that our university owns is assigned to our foundation. The first exit we had last year is a company we invested $4 million in and sold for $130 million. Every one of those people wrote a check to the University of Arizona Foundation. They understand now the huge opportunity they have to benefit from the upside of venture capital. So they encourage someone, instead of writing the foundation a check for $1 million, write that check to us. It could become multi-million dollars. And furthermore, as the donor, you can earmark that back to any project, college, or purpose that you choose. The other place where this has been hugely successful for us, I think, is a real opportunity for many of you in this room, is with our athletic department. Our athletic director meets with, encourages with, hosts dinners with us to encourage athletic boosters to invest in the U of A fund. And many of those people have done that and earmarked the proceeds from our fund back to the athletic department. It's the same people that put their names on our buildings. Our minimum size in our fund is $250,000, and indeed we have a lot of alumni participating at that level. We also have alumni that have written us checks for as much as $1 million, $1.5 million or more, who are participating now in our fund. And we're very engaged. You know, the foundation's engaged, the president's engaged. President Robbins flew to Atlanta with us when we met with 65 Atlanta-based donors. He's entertaining people next week that are coming to the university that are prospective donors. We're going to Houston with the president of our university and the president of our foundation here in a few months to continue to solicit donors. We have found this, and the foundation will tell you if they were here, this is opening doors for them that they otherwise would not have opened. I don't know how many buildings you can sell, and how many names you can put on a building, or how many basketball seats you can give away, but they have found that this is an interesting way to engage donors, particularly successful business people, in a way to participate in the university that furthers startup activity, creates wealth for the faculty and inventor, and also raises the reputation of the university. So that our foundation is probably our greatest part. Ian wanted me to save some time for questions. I think we're pretty much on track. I'd be happy to do that. I think the takeaways from us are we believe your alumni will engage as investors. We have seen that time and time again. I don't think we've been thrown out of anybody's office as this is the stupidest idea that you've ever brought to us. Those investments range from a few $100,000 to several $1 million. It's enabled us to have a fund dedicated to our school and to its faculty. And moreover, it's opened doors that historically have not been open to our foundation. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about how we're doing, how that might apply to you.
Fletcher, I have one question. I'll kick it off for others. One question that I think a lot of people here might be interested in is when you raised the first fund, even though you're on your second fund now, how did you get started with the introductions going out to some of the donors? Was that in coordination with the foundation or philanthropy unit? Who gave you the list of names? That approach?
The first fund was harder, in fact, than the second fund in terms of that. Most of that was friends and family, connections of ours, people we knew that were involved with the university or had known us. The foundation really didn't embrace us in the beginning. They actually thought we might be a little competitive, frankly, that we might poach some of their donors. So, those are all individual calls that we made. Once the word got around about what we were doing, who was involved, but moreover the kind of investments we got, and then the university elected to make the foundation an equity partner. The foundation at some point embraced us and opened up their donor base to us. So we've hosted several meetings, dinners, where the foundation is the host and we're the presenter. They've maintained their mailing list. They won't share it with us, but they've invited everyone on it to take a look at the fund in terms of a chance of participating with our strategy. The president has made this a personal mission to raise the fund and does a lot of the work himself. Our tech launch division also has made a point about they do a newsletter and a magazine, kind of an update, and the Alumni Association has included this in all the alumni publications. So now we've reached, we have as many alumni, I think, as you do. We've probably reached out to all of them.
That's the incremental or additive nature of it, I think, is very important. The ability to earmark proceeds and things like that back to the university, I think that's key. Any other questions for Fletcher? Yeah.
When you have your donors into the fund or your investors, do you engage them personally as well in any way?
It depends on their interest in being engaged. We have found that almost all of them want to meet the faculty, hear about where their money's going. We host an annual event coincidental to homecoming, where we invite all of our investors to come hear from all of our portfolio companies. Our homecoming's in October, and at that event, we had 100% investor participation. So indeed, they're eager to learn. We're eager for them not to meddle, but they really seem to enjoy hearing about what we're doing and celebrating the success that we have it. And they introduce us constantly to other donors.
How do you see this scaling with different sized universities? And do you have any recommendations for, say, a smaller university? Do you see any pitfalls in raising this type of fund? Do you see any challenges, or do you see that, hey, this can be scaled to whatever university?
I think all of you have a loyal donor base regardless of your size, and if you start there, even if you start with a $5 million fund, you're going to find, I think you can raise that money. The pieces that make it work beyond that are engaging the faculty. And do you have the incentives to attract a faculty inventor? What is the tech transfer process? What is the conflict of interest? How cumbersome is that? So I think it requires a whole systemic review of how commercialization works for this really to happen. But, you know, all you need is one success. And we have found that, you know, one exit just totally changed the profile of what we were doing. You have to be substantially bigger than that to attract institutional capital. Our own foundation can't invest with us because we're too young. They have, you know, criteria, you know, when they invest in venture capital. But our donors obviously don't enjoy those kind of restrictions. So, you know, I think big and or small, I think you're capable of doing that. We've met a lot of universities that are not very generous toward their faculty and vendors. They keep 15% of their invention, or 30. I think Kentucky's 40. Frankly, one of the reasons we made ours so high was we want all those disenchanted professors to move to Tucson. And you know, you've got to create an environment that encourages that kind of innovation.
There's a reason we didn't invite any faculty to
So I think I can talk it off the microphone. When you say
Yeah, go on.
you keep saying that the faculty own the invention. The faculty don't own the invention. The faculty own a portion, equity in the company that you form. The university owns 100% of the invention. Then they license that into the company, and then the faculty get that portion. The university keeps 5% of the equity. You get 40%, the faculty gets 55%. That's really what you're talking about.
That's exactly right. Yeah, the IP is applied for and owned
By
under
the
the ownership of the University of Arizona.
Right. And
The
so
licenses are perpetual. So they license it back to, sometimes to the faculty as an individual if they don't have a company, or to a company that we've helped create, and you're exactly right.
And in those licenses, is there an anti-dilution clause for the university to some level, and a royalty stream coming back to the university in the event of sales?
It's not standardized. We've encouraged the university to standardize it because right now it's individually negotiated. A lot of them have anti-dilution features up to a number,
Yeah.
you know, like $2 million. So we're anti-dilutive until you've raised your first two. Many of them have revenue royalty streams. We've encouraged them not to do that. That's a real barrier to a strategic buyer to have a perpetual revenue royalty back to the university. So they're looking more at the equity and a little less at the royalty. But our agreements are not standardized. Some of them have royalty features, some of them have anti-dilutive features.
Okay, thank you.
Greg, you want to say something?
So, to your question, I would tell you that in our experience as fundraisers, right, that we're very effective business. There's two attributes here. Number one is the personal advocacy of the president. Is President Robbins saying this is the most important strategic initiative at the University of Arizona to raise our academic reputation? How do they move forward? And then number two is a credible person like Fletcher, no committees. And that's a hard thing in universities is they want to committeize everything. No statutes built to committees. So Fletcher is the allocator of the capital. He's very decisive and nimble. And that's what we see as a point of differentiation because every university is doing this, but the level of success we're having on the fundraising front are very simply because of those two attributes. Support from the very top and somebody that's credible, trusted, and known. Been there, done that, like Fletcher.
Talk about the alumni has access to the fund. The alumni has access to the fund as well.
Yeah, so we've broadened the scope of our fund to include sitting faculty, but also alumni and vendors. But most of the work's directly to faculty, but we have funded 2 alumnus projects.
So when you said you invested in these companies, did they turn around and sponsor research into the university in their lab and or where was the development work to make a prototype done?
So almost everything we've invested with that's in some sort of research phase is still on campus in their lab. And now it's a private sector enterprise, so they've had to clear COI. And that typically means they reduce the amount of their full-time commitment to the university. It also means they can tape off a little section of their lab, and we pay rent to the university for that section. So they're pretty good about keeping an arm's length between but one of the things that's working for us is they want the faculty to stay in their lab and continue research. This is usually not the only thing that they're researching. And most of the faculty and vendors that we're involved with want to continue to research. Even if we create an exit for them, they want to stay in the lab and continue working. So we're still on campus for the most part.
So the great part is the 20 million is research dollars the university can count.
Yeah, and they use this as match.
Right.
Yeah.
We do use this money as match.
We got time for one more question before we move to our next panel. Any last burning questions? Otherwise, please bombard Fletcher.
Ian knows how to reach me. If you have anything you'd like to follow up with, just remember we're 3 hours behind.
Thanks, Fletcher.
Thank you very much.
All right, our next panel can come up and take their places.